Friends, today's NRI Samay program from Los Angeles brought to you commercial free by listeners like you. Your generous donations make possible for us to stay commercial free. This is a live show and our guest will be happy to answer any of your questions. If you have a question for the guest, please leave a message on the chat window on nrisamay.com/live. Thank you for your support.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the NRI Samay weekend shows. Like every week, we will be bringing guests from India to tell more about the ground realities. And this week, we're going to talk about Uttarakhand disaster, which left more than 1,000 casualties and which affected more than 100,000 people in Uttarakhand. And today we have Purushottam Garu from Dehradun. He is a collector for the Dehradun district. And along with that, we have Himanshu ji, who is from South Asia Network on Dams, Rivers and People. Welcome to the show, Himanshu Garu and Purushottam ji.
Thank you. Good evening, Andy.
Thank you. So, we have been following the news on this Uttarakhand disaster, and first of all, I have to salute our Indian Army, Indian Tibet Border Police, Border Security Force, National Disaster Response Force and the Public Works Department and the entire government who is actually helping in the rescue operations, and along with some other NGOs and other organizations which are on the ground and trying to evacuate the people for the safest places. We from NRI Samay salute the efforts of all those brave people, and along with that we heard about the sad incidents where one of the chopper which was carrying 20 people along with our Indian Air Force force was colluded, and there was casualties. So we express our deep condolence for that incident too. Before Purushottam ji, can you actually tell us about what is the current situation back in Uttarakhand? Like, is the rescue operation is over, and is the life came back to the normalcy?
Rescue operation is almost, I think, 90% it is over. All people, most of the people have been rescued. Still, as on date, only 1,000 people are still stranded at Badrinath. I think once the weather clears tomorrow, all the remaining pilgrims can be rescued from that place. So then the whole operation of rescuing the pilgrims will be over. Then the next stage of rehabilitation of the local people, that will start.
Okay, so initially we were more focusing on rescuing the pilgrims and taking them out of that place to a safer place. And even along with that, even the locals were moved to some other places, or still we have locals over there, the local habitats?
The still local habitat is still there. Actually, you need to know the dynamics of this yatra. I mean, the Chardham yatra. Chardham yatra includes Yamunotri, Gangotri, Kedarnath and Badrinath, the four holy shrines established by Adi Shankaracharya. He established Kedarnath and Badrinath. So this yatra is for 6 months. It starts in the month of May. It continues for 6 months, and then for remaining 6 months, the yatra gets closed when the snowfall starts in the high reaches of Himalayas. So this year, this started in the month of May 16th and 17th. So the local population go there, establish their, already their hotels and everything. They start their business there. So the government's focus as on date is to get out the pilgrims first and send them to various states. And then the local pilgrims will be moving out, or they may opt to stay there because still the yatra is still remaining, though the roads are not there. So it's up to the local people. If they want to come back, the government has made arrangements for them to get back. If they want to stay there, they can very well stay there.
Okay. So, roughly how many of the locals might have been affected with this flood, or like how many people are waiting for the help from the government due to the flood?
This is, if you, the local people that are totally affected, I will tell you in terms of villages. In Yamunotri Valley, there are almost 20 villages affected. You can count every village might be having a minimum population of 500. So 10,000 is in Yamunotri Valley. Gangotri Valley, there are something like 15 villages that are affected. So Gangotri Valley is a bit densely populated. So here something like 15,000 might be affected local people in Gangotri Valley. Kedarnath Valley, which is the worst affected in the entire disaster, there something like 20,000 people are affected. Badrinath, another 15,000. So total it is 50 plus 60,000 local people are affected directly by this yatra. And whole tourism got affected. So the whole Uttarakhand economy is dependent upon tourism. You can say indirectly, many more people are affected.
Okay. So, I mean, I know it's little tough to predict these natural disasters. Do you think that we could have done anything in advance to prevent such a huge loss to these people? I mean, was there anything which should have been done to minimize the after effects of this disaster or natural calamity?
I will tell you one thing. I mean, I am working in this state since last 10 years. What I found is, I mean, here rainfall, I mean, usually monsoon sets in the month of July 1st. I mean, May 3rd, it hits the Kerala coast, it keeps coming up, and then June 25th to July 1st, it hits Uttarakhand states, and that's when the rain comes. And during rain comes, a lot of landslides happen, and then landslides get cleared in a matter of 24 to 48 hours, and then the yatra continues. This is the drill that happens every year. But this time what happened is, unexpectedly on June 15th and 16th, we had heavy rainfall in the state, amounting to almost 960 millimeters of rainfall in 2 days. You will be appalled to listen that there is a dam called Terry Dam here. In a matter of 24 hours, the water height has risen 25 meters. That means something like some 4-story building height, the water level has risen in a matter of 24 hours. So you can imagine the amount of rainfall that has happened in a matter of 24 hours. So that came as rain, and it has washed away all the roads and caused floods. So this is purely a natural disaster. Even though how much we would have been prepared, I think there would have been no other things that would have been done to prevent from the natural disaster.
Okay, thank you, Purushottam ji. Actually, Himanshu ji, I was going through one of the article in SANDRP where you were discussing more of how these human actions might have caused this natural phenomenon into a massive disaster. So, what is your opinion on this entire, the Uttarakhand deluge?
See, I think there has been a number of significant systemic failures that has become apparent in this disaster. Firstly, there was supposed to be, it's technically possible to even predict cloudburst at least 3 to 6 hours in advance. And a Doppler radar system that can do it was sanctioned for Uttarakhand since 2008. That has been recorded in the Comptroller and Auditor General report. But because of the lack of coordination between the Uttarakhand state government, NDMA and IMD, that system was not in place. Uttarakhand government did not provide the land at Mussoorie and Nainital, which they were supposed to provide for this. Had this system been in place, at least 3 to 6 hours notice, even for cloudburst, would have been there. That was the first level of failure. So we didn't have the warning. Secondly, there was no forecasting even from IMD, no accurate forecasting. Whatever forecast IMD had provided, the state government completely failed to act on it. The third thing that the failure was that there was lack of monitoring. So even after the rainfall occurred, after so many days, we have a general statement, but we don't have specific information as to how much rainfall occurred at what places and what was the consequence downstream, and what did the administration do to alert once the event of rainfall happened. Fourthly, in terms of the development activities that is going on in Uttarakhand, Uttarakhand is known to be very fragile mountain. It is prone to lot of disasters, including flash floods, cloudburst, landslides, seismic activities. In that region, the kind of indiscriminate development activities that has been going on. More than 100 hydropower projects are planned, lot of them already under construction. Each project involves massive amount of blasting. There has been no credible environmental social impact assessment, no compliance mechanism in place. The fourth level of failure, so without that, when you do such massive intervention in a fragile ecology, you are inviting big trouble. In August 2012, Uttarkasi district received the same scenes of building collapsing on the riverbed that we saw this monsoon. And there was a disaster department report after that, which showed what precautions Uttarakhand government needs to take. Specific recommendations were being made. None of them were implemented on. The CAG report of 2009 warned about the indiscriminate hydropower projects that is going on. There is lack of disaster management plan. Again, no action taken. In 2012, CAG report again came out saying that since 2007, there is supposed to be a state disaster management authority in place, but there has not been a single meeting. There are no rules, no regulations, no guidelines, nothing in place. So that's why the entire rescue operation was happening thanks to ITBP, Army and National Disaster Rescue Team. But the state government, even the NDMA vice chairman agreed that even when at the peak of the disaster rescue operation, the state government was completely absent on ground. And in fact, that's why we even now have very ballpark figures of affected people. We don't have an accurate estimate of actually some of the NGOs have better estimate than the state government has as to what kind of, how many villages are affected, how many people are affected, in fact, how much land is affected, how many people's livelihood is affected. The state government has still no estimate nor action plan in this. So there has been multiple level of failures.
Okay.
Can I counter some of his hello?
Sure. Yeah, sure, Purushottam.
Sorry to interrupt, but can I counter some of the arguments by Himanshu ji?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, nothing political about it and nothing personal. I mean, regarding the land available to IMD for the Doppler radar, which is supposed to put up at Matsuri, because it falls in my district only, I just opened the file yesterday to see what happened to that land. We have sent a proposal to IMD in the year 2010, finalizing a piece of land about 2,000 square meters. We said you send the proposal for land acquisition, because land acquisition proposal is supposed to come from the department, from the owner department who is supposed to set up its facility. And that land acquisition proposal has not yet come to this office till date. So, blaming the state government could not provide the land, I think it is not facts were not put up in the right way. And regarding the number of deaths, you were telling that still there is no proper methodology to, and NGOs are having an accurate idea. That's not the case. Till today, the number of missing reports, that means people who have filed FIRs regarding missing reports, there were 2,238 people have reported that their near and dear ones were missing, and the state government cannot speculate that so many people have died. And the third thing, that state government did not work, and it's only the contribution of Indian Air Force, Indo-Tibetan Border Police Force, National Disaster Response Force that has acted, and state government totally failed. I don't agree to it. I mean, it's just that state government could not put up the facts well. I will tell you, state government has had 15 helicopters. Out of these, through these 15 helicopters, 50% of the people have been saved by Indian Air Force, and 50% people have been rescued from Kedarnath Valley by the choppers hired by state government. And you may very well remember one private chopper also crashed, though the pilot was safe. One private chopper also crashed that belongs to the chopper hired by the state government. And CAG usually deals with how the audit, how the money has been spent, public money has spent. CAG cannot comment how it has to be spent. I mean, that is not the mandate of CAG. But anyways, I mean, I have put the state government version. State government was fully into the gear. On the incident happened on 16th. On 18th, all the state government personnel, including magistrates and all the police people, were there at respective places. It's the state government people who have guided all the other organs. I mean, it's telling that state government was not there. I don't agree to that theory.
So, Purushottam garu, so what about this national disaster management system? Was that kept in a place in advance? Though the act was, I guess, in 2005 or 2006 when central government initiated that act. So, whether that was able to be put up in Uttarakhand by the state government, I guess it might not come under district's responsibility, but it might be state government responsibility. But it is still, did state government responded well to set up one kind of an action team or action plan with a vision for that state national disaster management?
We have a well-dedicated Disaster Mitigation and Management Center, DMMC, headed by Executive Director Rank Officer. I mean, that works well. And as you well pointed out, that district doesn't form under the mandate of a district collector to comment upon why the state disaster management authority did not act. So that I cannot comment at this point of time. But well, we have a disaster DMMC put in place. But what I want to emphasize is this disaster was unthinkable and unthinkable even we would have thought of and we would have put measures in place. I think it is very difficult to control this one. I mean, it is a purely natural disaster.
Okay, so Himanshu ji, so it can be a natural disaster, but there are several comments in several articles which says that there is a bit of human involvement into this natural disaster, which actually made the disaster more worse, either in terms of casualties or any other things. One of the critical thing which was claimed as an illegal mining which is operated in that area and all these things. So, and even like it looks like Swami Nighamanand, he was on fast against of these illegal mining activities and everything in Haridwar, but sadly his fast was, he was died after fasting for 76 days. So, like how this illegal mining and all these activities are adding more to the disaster whenever in these natural calamities are happening.
See, the first thing that that is visible on the TV screens, every TV channel, is that the buildings are collapsing on the and the rivers are as the river flows by. Now, what is clearly apparent is that all of those buildings were on the riverbed, right on the riverbed. They were encroaching on the riverbed, whereas the regulation says that there should be clearly defined path of the river. And there should be no building 100 meters on both sides of the river. This is, in fact, the High Court order, Uttarakhand High Court order has said 200 meters. Now, the trouble is that, now this is known. This happened in August 3 and 4, 2012, and these scenes were there. After that, there was, and so it is known that all these buildings were there illegally, obstructing the path of the river. Now, when the river does not get its way, it is bound to take its way, and these buildings are were invitation for disaster. But the state administration, which should have been taking action, removing these illegal encroachments, was instead actually colluding with them, all this kind of illegal construction activities and builders, and was acting as a rent seeker. Similarly, this is not just a particular officer. I'm not blaming a particular officer, but this is a general culture that is going on. And the political class is equally involved. Secondly, you look at the hydropower projects, as I said. There's such a large number of hydropower projects going on, each project involving long tunnels, which diameter is so big that 3 trains can go side by side. Its length can be 5 to 30 kilometers long. Now take the specific example of Srinagar 330 megawatt hydropower project at Srinagar, just before upstream of Devprayag. That project had dumped close to more than 500,000 cubic meters of muck into the riverbed. And that riverbed is what actually river took all that muck and dumped on the houses downstream, and houses have been submerged not just by water, but 1 to 3 story height of silt. Same thing happened at downstream of Fatabuyang hydropower project on Mandakini, and further downstream the Singoli Bhatwari hydropower project. Same thing happened. Say for example, Vishnuprayag hydropower project has been washed away. Similarly, if you take upstream of Uttarkashi Maneri Bhali 2 hydropower project, the protection wall was broken in last flood in August. It was not protected and it created further danger. So this is second round of man-made reason. All this kind of activity is not sustainable in a fragile ecology like Uttarakhand, but we don't have a single credible environmental impact assessment. We have no cumulative impact assessment. We have no carrying capacity study. And in absence of that, the tourism traffic has increased by close to 3 to 5% in last decade. Now, so what this means is that you need so many more vehicles, so much more road, you need so many more hotels and residential complexes, and all of this is aiding to the pollution load and the ecological load on the system, which the system is completely not in a position to bear. Even at the Kedarnath, just upstream of Kedarnath, there are two streams of Mandakini. If you look at the northwest stream, which was completely almost dry, it was completely full of building, and when that stream became alive in this monsoon, it just blew away. So while the rainfall was natural, but as far as the damage is concerned, a very large proportion of damage was man-made because of the carelessness of the government and the overloading of the whole ecology without any assessment of the carrying capacity. And this argument can be extended a lot more, but I am stopping here.
Thank you, Himanshu. So you actually raised 3 to 4 very important points. One is there can be political pressure on this illegal mining and all those things. And the second one can be the hydro power projects, and third one can be the absence of or absence of ecological impact and all these assessments. So actually, if I go back to maybe March of 2013, I heard one of the ministers was saying like, okay, when we actually stop some illegal mining, we might be receiving a call from a fellow MLA or minister saying, why did you stop this truck or this vehicle? So do we expect more, even though some bureaucrats and even though some politicians wants to put a check to this illegal mining, is there a large scale of mafia or extreme force which is acting upon them not to work in the right direction? It is actually to Purushottamji.
Regarding illegal mining, what I tell you, it's not prevalent in the mining is not a problem in the hills. There illegal mining doesn't happen, but the mining you have to see in a very mining means it's not the mining that happens like iron ore mining or all these things. Here, mining is basically picking of boulders. Picking of boulders that happens, the boulders which come from the higher reaches from the Himalayas, that boulders are picked up. Actually, what happens if you don't pick the boulders from the river? What happens is the problem that sets is the riverbeds keep increasing its height. Like the earlier speaker has said, lot of silt has been deposited and it has increased the bed of the river. So unless we pick the boulders from the rivers, the bed of the river increases and it causes more flooding. So what is necessary is the mining that has to happen in a very controlled way in the directionship of various authorities. The mining should have happened. I agree at some places it doesn't happen, but this problem is only in places like Dehradun and Haridwar, that is the plain district, and Udham Singh Nagar. But in the hills where the tragedy has happened, there no mining doesn't happen. And I agree with some facts of the other speaker that a lot of hydropower projects have come there, but these projects have been sanctioned only after due studies.
Not at all true. This is not true.
Hello?
Yeah. So, there is a counter argument saying there is not enough studies were conducted and there was no proper ecological assessments were done.
This is a very, very, very bigger issue. I don't think we can sort this issue in this half an hour talk. But what I need to say is these have come up only after due sanctions. I mean, now we have to see the reports where things have gone wrong. But mining is not a problem in the hills. Mining is a problem only in the plains.
Okay. So then actually the next point was more of encroachment of these river beds. So it looks like officially we cannot have any constructions within 100-meter distance to the riverbed or river. So like on whose jurisdiction this falls under, like if there is any encroachment, who is supposed to be acted on these things? Because this looks like this is one of the prominent reason for more casualties or more loss of money or anything. So what might have been done in this case to prevent this river bed encroachment?
This is directed to me, Purushottam.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will answer. I mean, Honorable Supreme Court, it says that no construction should happen in the 200 meters from the river bank. But no new construction. The administration is not allowing any new construction to happen, but all the old construction that have already happened. So we don't have any authority to remove them from the river bank. So you have seen the buildings in the TVs, they are being collapsing. All these are the old constructions before the Honorable Supreme Court's order. So administration doesn't have any say to remove them from the river bank, but we stop any encroachment and we don't allow any new construction to happen within the, what the Honorable Supreme Court has said.
Okay.
Well, this is not correct actually.
Go on, Himanshu ji.
Yeah, see, actually, lot of the buildings that has come up on the riverbed in the Chamoli, Govindghat, Gauri Kund area, lot of them have happened over the last decade or 1.5 decades, and lot of those hotels and parking places and buildings have come up in this period on the riverbed. And in fact, the government spokesman has accepted that lot of those buildings have collapsed because they were illegal structures. Even the Sainik Bhavan, a massive Sainik Bhavan at Srinagar, the geologist of the Gadwal University today said that whole structure was encroaching on the riverbed. So actually there is no defined riverbed in Uttarakhand rivers at all. So if you don't have defined riverbed, then you can't start defining the 100 meters from there. Secondly, I think it's a very indefensible thing to say that there are these old buildings which are at the risk of being collapsing, but we are in no position to do anything. I think it's the Uttarakhand state government's responsibility to alert, make a plan. In fact, this is what he talks about DMMC. The DMMC report after the August 3-4, 2012 said exactly this thing. They said that all these buildings needs to be removed in a time-bound manner through executive action. But nothing was done. That recommendation is there in black and white on their website. So it's not at all defensible to say that we have no powers to do that. I mean, the state government has all the powers and responsibility to ensure the safety of the people, and if they say we can't do it, then it's a very sad situation.
No, I didn't say that we cannot do it. I mean, we are bound by law to do it, and we have to do it. Suppose, if you take up this tragedy has happened in the Kedarnath Valley, where the houses were built on the riverbed, whatever the other speaker was telling. Suppose if there was no construction, if you see the satellite images, I'm just going through the satellite images in my computer. If you see, I think there would have been no construction allowed. That means where the tourists will be staying. So we have to sit and debate this issue also. If you take this measuring tape and keep observing 100 meters, and then the whole Rambada village would not have been constructed. Whole structures there, even in Kedarnath, would have not been constructed if you strictly follow this norm. So now it is for us to sit and think what should have been done and what should not have been done. But I never said that it is not implementable.
So okay. So Himanshu ji, it's more like you were mentioning initially about these hydropower projects and everything, right? So now we have more than 100 hydropower projects, and if I'm not wrong, a couple of years back, Uttarakhand, the chief minister, he resigned over illegal sanctioning of 56 hydropower projects or something. So can you actually explain us a little more to understand what exactly is happening in terms of sanctioning of these hydropower projects and the entire process where they are not having the proper ecological impact assessment and all those things?
Yes, sure. See, there are broadly two kinds of hydropower projects. One is like a TERI, which is storage kind of project, but the most of the projects that are happening in Uttarakhand are run-of-the-river projects, which involves a dam, which is called internationally large dam, but it also involves a tunnel, and the whole of the river gets diverted into the tunnel. And as I said, the tunnel can be 5 to 30 kilometers long, and its width can be up to wide enough to carry 3 trains side by side. Now this is the second kind of. And as far as the size is concerned, there are projects which are below 25 megawatts. There are projects above 25 megawatts. Project below 25 megawatts does not require any environment clearance. It doesn't require any environmental impact assessment. It involves no monitoring. And this is a very sad situation because every one of those projects also has significant impact, but we have been pushing for that every project above 1 megawatt also must have a EIA, environment management plan, environment clearance and monitoring. But this is not happening. So the very large number of projects that are happening in Uttarakhand does not have any environmental impact assessment nor any cumulative impact assessment at all. As far as the project above 25 megawatts are concerned, it requires environmental clearance from the government. Up to 50 megawatts, state government can give clearance, and above 50 megawatts, central government. Now, these projects require environmental impact assessment. But we know, even our former Environment Minister, Jairam Ramesh, is on record having said that we don't have what we can call a credible, honest environmental impact assessment. Most environmental impact assessment are cut and paste jobs. These are dishonest jobs. They are done sitting in an office desktop. They don't involve really the on-ground study. And because of that, we don't really have a good, accurate picture of assessment. And because we don't have a good assessment of impact, we don't have even a good management plan. But most importantly, even if you have a good assessment, and even if you have a good management plan, what you really require is actually implementation, compliance. Now, as far as compliance and implementation is concerned, officials of Ministry of Environment themselves tell us that they don't have capacity to do that. They don't have capacity. In fact, they don't seem to us. It doesn't seem they don't seem to have either will or the willingness to do that either. But they for example, each project is supposed to submit compliance report that they are doing implementation of the plans as per requirement. But the ministry officials don't have time to even look at the compliance report or even check whether the compliance reports are submitted. And even when people like us give evidence to the government, both the state and the central government, that projects like Srinagar are dumping illegally muck, which they are not supposed to dump. Each project, in the terms of creating these tunnels and blasting, is increasing the disaster potential in terms of landslides, but it is also creating millions of cubic meters of muck. And they are supposed to take that muck to a safe place. They are supposed to acquire land for it. They are supposed to create protection wall and so on and create a permanent settlement. But they don't do it because it involves costs. Easier for them is to dump it into the river. And that's what they do. And everybody knows they have been doing, TV footage have been shown, reports have been shown, photographic evidence has been given, but the state government has taken never any action, nor central government. So what it means, the whole thing is that environment compliance, actually environment governance does not exist, even though it remains on paper.
And it looks like even when the central government was asking to declare the area as an eco-sensitive zone, if I'm not wrong, yes, either it be a BJP or a Congress, they outrightly rejected. Is this the
yes,
case with the same thing?
Yes, both the state and the central government have rejected it. And in fact, the Ministry of Environment itself took a long time to notify it. They did it finally on December 12, 2012, almost when the notification was about to be lapsed, and it is still to come into force. But the state government is still opposing it. In fact, there is a recommendation from in India's National Action Plan for Climate Change. There is a mission on Himalayan ecosystem, and they have recommended that area at least 10-kilometer radius of each of the 4 Chardham, pilgrimage places should also be declared as eco-sensitive zone. And in fact, we have been saying that all these main arteries of Uttarakhand at the higher reaches at least needs to be declared as eco-sensitive zone, at least 100 kilometers each of them, Mandakini, Alaknanda and Bhagirathi. But the state government is not really interested.
Okay. And I really don't want to be pessimist, but with so many things are happening within, ecological imbalance things. So do you think that, based on some reports, do you think that there might be some more, these kind of natural calamities that may happen, or that we need to be really cautious from now on? Like, is there any kind of a message that we can take from this thing?
For whom is this question?
Actually, this question was meant for both. I would like to take answer from the both, Collector ji and Himanshu ji. So first, actually, Purushottam ji, if you can start, that would be great.
Yeah. I mean, since the start of this talk, I am repeatedly emphasizing this is purely a natural disaster, and at least I learned from the whole episode is natural disaster will happen. Suppose the tsunami of Japan, it is purely a natural disaster. So these disasters are bound to happen on this earth because of the weather patterns. It is bound to happen. But what we have learned is how to cope up with these disasters. Now the standard operating protocols have to be put in place in case in future such type of disasters happen, how we are going to cope with it. So this time what happened, it is a learning lesson for all of us, where we should construct helipads, how to augment the communication system, how to augment the transport network. Suppose if landslide occurs and the road gets cut, so what should be the alternate mode of transport? So these are all the lessons that should be learned, which will be useful for the entire Himalayan ranges, for all those states which are in the Himalayan ranges.
Thank you, Purushottam ji. So, Himanshu ji, do you want to add any more points to that, like what we can learn from this? And
yes, I think firstly we need to really realize that in the times of changing climate, this kind of rainfall events are likely to happening more frequently. So if we really need to learn a lot of lessons from this disaster, and if we don't learn, then this disaster may turn out to be a trailer of a much bigger disaster. Firstly, we need to do a full carrying capacity study for each of the basins, which we have not done. Carrying capacity study in terms of all kinds of development interventions that are going on, whether it is mining, whether it is building of houses and hotels, whether it is tourism, whether it is roads, whether it is hydropower projects. Now that needs to be done. And this needs to be, while this is being done, it needs to be done in the context of disaster potential of each of the river basins. And as far as the disaster management is concerned, I think there needs to be a role for disaster management in each of the developmental activities. Next, we need to have a very good warning system. Forecasting system. We need a monitoring system, much better monitoring system than we have. We are not even monitoring the GLOFs, glacial lakes, which can actually lead to a lot of floods, which has happened in some of the places. We are not watching the landslide-prone areas, so we need to do that. We need to actually temporarily put a moratorium on all ongoing hydropower projects. We need to put a very credible environment governance system in place. We need to have environmental impact and governance for all hydropower projects above 1 megawatt. We need to ensure that the existing hydropower projects actually operate in optimum way. In September 2010, due to wrong operation of Tehri, there were completely avoidable disaster in Haridwar, flood disaster. which the Terry Dam had been operated properly would not have been there. So existing projects needs to be operated carefully. So there is a lot we can do, and we need to do it urgently.
I totally agree with Himanshu ji, but there is always one kind of a counter argument which always brings up when we talk about these hydropower projects or even the tourism and all these things. They say that this is more for the economy of the state, and in the absence of either the tourism, of course, which ultimately might increase in gas emission and causing the greenhouse damage, or the hydropower projects through which state can earn some works for the state people. So, but if, in the absence of these two things, how we can manage the sustainability of the state, or how we can give an employment to the Uttarakhand citizens? This is kind of an counter argument that we always actually hear when we talk about these projects. So do you have any answer for that?
That's to me answer question?
Yeah, Himanshu, yeah.
Okay, see, what I see is that the existing hydropower projects, all the power should come to Uttarakhand. Today, most of the power is going outside, so that should be stopped so that Uttarakhand gets all the power from the existing hydropower projects. Secondly, we are not saying no projects. What we are saying is that you need to do a complete, credible, democratic, participatory assessment and governance in place. And then if you start with smaller projects, there is a huge potential. There are villages in Uttarakhand which are operating, say, 30 kilowatt, 40 kilowatt projects, which are not only sufficient for their electricity needs for the whole villages, for all the needs, but they are also running small industries. And that's providing employment to the local people. So models like that are available. Similarly, as far as tourism is concerned, there is a possibility of sustainable tourism. So we need to assess what is the limits of sustainable, safe tourism, and we need, I think, within that, and also ensure that the maximum benefit again comes to the local people. If you do that, then there is a lot that the local people can look forward to. Similarly, in terms of protecting the agricultural land, again, there is a lot that local people can benefit from. Again, in terms of sustainable mining, if the mining again where go to the benefits where to the local people, there is a lot that sustainable mining can yield to the local people. So there is a lot of potential as far as the local people and their economy and their sustainability is concerned. But today, most of these big projects the profits are going to outside companies and investors, and the local people are actually suffering the ill effects of that.
Yeah. So, Purushottam ji, this question is for you. Himanshu ji, correct me, if I am wrong. So, it looks like based on the conversation, I understood that. Even the Uttarakhand people, even the activists or anyone who is, working for this cause, they are not really against of this development model or anything, but they are just trying to understand the impact of this economic model that is on the people of the Uttarakhand. And it looks like 70% of the Uttarakhand land is a forest. And that forest is not only essential for Uttarakhand, but also it is essential for India. In the national interest, if Uttarakhand, for the national interest, if Uttarakhand does not, wants to declare that land as an eco-sensitive zone and does not want to do anything on that and leave it for the national interest, do you think that what kind of an compensation that you have to get as the rightful Uttarakhand citizens from the central? Because you are trying, in case if we actually stop all these projects and try to put that land as an eco-sensitive zone for the sake of the rest of the country, what kind of an other mechanism or other compensation that Uttarakhand people are entitled to get?
I will answer, though it is a very policy type of decision. My opinion regarding this is purely personal. What I would like to share with you is, though 70% of the land here is forest, we just use the forest land for putting up various projects like roads and the building up of electricity cables to the villages. I think in India, every citizen has a right to have a road from where he can have good, quick access to various other places. So for that, we need forest land. And the second is, for laying electricity cables and water supply schemes. I think these are the basic necessities. I think nobody can counter the argument that no village can have a road. Second, the main industry that comes that keeps coming up again and again in this hilly state is the hydropower project. I still tell you, even a power project of 5 megawatts, it needs permission from it needs a proper environmental impact assessment. Then only it gets permission. I agree with Himanshu that proper democratic mechanism should be in place when the public hearing takes place. Proper democratic hearing should take place, and the whole sanctioning of projects should be in a very democratic way, so that every citizen knows how the project is coming up. I worked in a place called Uttarakhand district where this whole issue of eco-sensitive zone is going on. I worked there. I still, you also said that the issue of sustainability of that place has to be lived into before taking any decision. If we haphazardly take any decision that let's stop all the development in Uttarakhand state, I don't think that is going to help the country in any way. Before that, we need to have proper studies in place to study if eco-sensitive zone comes up in this area, it is going to help the country like this. Then only proper decision need to be taken.
Yeah. Thank you, Himanshu ji, and thank you, Purushottam ji, for spending your valuable time with us on NRI Samay, and briefing us more about the why and how the natural disaster has happened and what are the outcomes of that and how we are prepared to counter the future disasters. And we appreciate for your time. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear listeners, so this is what we hear from Uttarakhand Dehradun District Collector Purushottam ji and SANDRP Himanshu Takkar ji. So now we had a really good conversation about the Uttarakhand natural disaster, whether it was a natural disaster which was turned into a mass destruction with a man-made mistakes, or it was purely a natural disaster. And do follow us on nrisamay.com in YouTube or Facebook to get more updates on our show, and we'll be back tomorrow at the same time with another incredible story. And thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Friends, if you liked today's show, please go to youtube.com/NRI Samay and click on the subscribe button. You will get notified every time we publish a new show. And you can also like us on our social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Google+.